Have you ever wanted to create a manga but held yourself back because you felt like your artwork wasn't good enough? Well, I'm here to tell you that you don't need to be a great artist in order to be an amazing mangaka. Hi everyone, if you don't already know me, my name is Cross, and on this channel I dedicate all my videos to helping you turn your manga into a masterpiece. If you're new to my channel, please hit that little subscribe button and the bell button to get notified every time I upload a new video. I upload videos all about manga creating every single week, and you really don't want to miss it. First of all, let's talk about why it's possible to create a great manga even though your artwork may not be up to scratch. While manga is very art focused as a medium, one of the more important points to focus on if you want to be successful as a manga creator is actually more in the story. There are plenty of mangas out there with amazing artwork but a poorly written story, and vice versa. There are plenty of mangas out there with more poorly drawn artwork but amazing storylines. As an example, one manga that started off with more poorly drawn artwork but became one of the most successful mangas today is actually One Punch Man. However, regardless of the poorly drawn artwork, people still read and enjoyed One Punch Man more because of the comedy it had, the funny moments, and the storyline that it had. Attack on Titan as well started off with more poorly drawn artwork, but it ended up developing more as a story, and it really ended up catching the eye of a lot of people today. So as you can see, manga does not need to have amazing artwork in order to become something successful, and in fact, I think one of the most important things to focus on if you want your manga to be successful is having a really great storyline. So even if your artwork is not that great yet, that's okay. You can still focus on writing a really amazing story and help make your manga stand out a lot more for that. In order to write an amazing story for your manga, I think one of the most important things to first do is to create a really good story plan. Having a story plan means you have something to follow as you're consistently working on your story, and you can make sure that it all reads well as you continue to create it. Since this is a video more specifically on the topic of how to create amazing manga even if you don't have the best artwork, I'm not going to be talking about how to create a good story plan here, but I do have a video already specifically on this topic, and if you want to check out that video, you can watch it right here. Now let's talk about how you can create a great manga with poorer artwork. My first tip is focus more on the layout. The truth is, a lot of errors in manga artwork can be improved on if the layout is fixed. Having poor layout can break a series because if someone cannot read it, it will be hard to enjoy it. In order to fix your layout, you first need to consider the reading direction of your manga. This is how people will read the direction of your book. Most manga are read from right to left. As you can see in this example, from that time I got reincarnated as a slime, it's easy to follow the reading direction. From the placement of the panels and the dialogue, readers know what part they are supposed to look at next. But what if all the panels are placed at the same size or in an odd way? Suddenly it gets very confusing to know how to read it. Some people might be able to figure it out, but others might get misled. We don't want that. We want to ensure that the reading direction remains clear all the way through. One of the best ways to do this is to break your page into thirds. Imagine that there are 3 pieces of your page, and then within those thirds draw your panels. As long as you keep the page divided into thirds, no matter how you draw your panels, it will be a lot easier for people to understand. Also ensure that when you place the dialogue, it is also placed in an order that follows the panel placement and the reading direction. Whether it is a page meant to be read right to left or left to right, speech bubble placement can help readers to follow and understand it. My second tip is remember that you are the camera director. Your artwork in your manga will automatically seem worse if you are always choosing the same angle. Even if you aren't very good at drawing at other angles, include other angles anyway, because it can get boring and tedious over time if your pages are always having just characters staring at the front or characters staring at this 3/4 angle. So try experimenting with different angles because you are the camera director. Try seeing your book as if you were looking at a movie. You have to remember that you are the camera director, and as the director, you have the freedom to choose any angle you want. Show characters entering a scene at a wider background angle. Show characters at a closer angle to reveal their body language. Change angles to show characters at higher or lower perspectives. Don't restrict yourself to what you are already good at. Try experimenting with new things even if you aren't the best artist, because those things will help your manga to stand out a lot more in appearance and be a lot more eye-catching to your potential readers. My third tip is create memorable and appealing characters. Regardless of art level, you can still create really amazing characters, and in fact, I think having amazing characters, regardless of art skill, is one of the things that will help your readers to really want to continue reading. It's one of the things that I really look for when I am reading something. I love seeing something with really well developed characters, and I think that's what a lot of people subconsciously look for when they are reading something. They want to know these characters, and if you create characters that your readers care about enough, your readers will want to read more of your manga to see what will happen to these characters. Now, there are two aspects to creating a good character, that is the writing and the design. When it comes to design, it might need to be more simplistic if you are not too advanced in art yet, and that's perfectly okay. Instead, when it comes to design, you want to ensure that you give them at least one quality that makes them stand out from other characters. For example, they might always wear a scarf, have long dark hair, or dress in a bold fashion. By choosing one main aspect to focus on in their design, it can help them to be more memorable. The writing is what you will want to focus on most of all. First of all, I recommend choosing a few key traits that are really prominent in their personality. For example, they might be very confident, very bold, kind, friendly, maybe mean or nasty. But those are some traits that you can choose to predominantly focus on with your character. You also want to give them a goal, regardless of if they are a protagonist or a side character. All of your characters should have some goal. Your protagonist will have bigger goals, and your side characters can have smaller goals too. Giving your characters goals means that your characters always have something that they are working towards and striving towards. Finally, it can also help if you give your characters hobbies or interests outside of their main goals. Everyone has something they're interested in, and it really adds a lot of realism when you show your characters doing something outside of the main plot or storyline too. My fourth tip is make your script more understandable. One of the reasons why you might be struggling with creating art in your manga is that your script may be a little bit too wordy or complicated for you to follow. If you don't understand your own script well enough, it might be very hard for you to convey that script in the artwork. So in this tip, I want to talk a bit about how you can simplify your script and make it easier for you to understand in order for you to automatically create better artwork in your mangas. When I first started creating manga, I tried following the very professional script writing method that you might see used in a lot of screenplays. It is very detailed and talks a lot about the background stuff that goes into creating a scene. I found this to be extremely confusing, and it really slowed down my process. My scripts are actually very rough. I put a focus on the dialogue mainly because that is what I find to be the most important when I am writing the scripts for my scenes. The rest of the directions for the scene will be in brackets, and the overall look and appearance of my script doesn't really look that professional in the slightest. But I use this method for my manga because it means that I can get my thoughts out quickly and keep it understandable for me. If I was working with an artist, I would likely have to clean up my scripts a lot and make them in a more professional manner, but since I'm the artist, the main thing is that I understand the scripts I'm writing. A common method I see for script writing is writing down what happens in each panel and the dialogue for those panels. Now, this is perfectly fine. I even talk about this script writing method in my video on script writing. However, I want you to ensure that this method is not limiting you. The reason I don't use this method is that in many cases, I don't know how a page will look until I storyboard it. You might write down certain things happening in different panels, but you might find you can fit more or less onto a page when you actually get into the drawing process. I really recommend that if you are struggling with drawing the art in your manga, comic, or graphic novel, you try different script writing methods and see if there is a different tactic that works better for you. One of your major problems might be that you are actually limiting yourself in the script writing method you're choosing, and by trying different methods, you might find a different technique that actually works better for you and helps you to create your artwork a lot faster. My fifth tip is focus more on creating clean lines. One thing that can really improve poorer artwork in manga is actually putting a bigger focus on creating artwork with more cleaner lines. If you clean up the lines in your manga, it's actually really going to help make your whole manga artwork look a lot better and more professional, even though your artwork in technique, in reality, might not be that great. If you create cleaner lines, it will overall give your manga a much more cleaner and more professional feel to it. Now, in this tip, I'm not specifically talking about art styles that have scribbled lines. If your particular art style has more of a focus on looser and scribbled lines, then by all means continue doing that. I'm not talking about art style focused things. But if this is not your art style and you want to improve the look of your manga, then focusing on cleaning up your lines and drawing more solid, cleaner lines will be a good start. When you draw your pages, do it in 2 steps. In the first step, with the sketch, create it with as loose lines as you would like. You can make it messy here, but ensure that you keep the sketch light so you can easily ink over it later. In the next step, ink over it as carefully as possible. If you struggle with keeping the lines straight, I recommend you do some inking exercises first. Practice holding your pen and draw longer sweeping lines, putting pressure at the top and less pressure at the bottom. When inking things like hair, do strokes like that in a single motion. When you finish a line, you can lift your hand from the page and put it down to draw the next one. Also keep in mind that when you are drawing your line art, you should be moving your elbow more rather than just your wrist, which may end up creating lines that are a little bit more stiff. So make sure you draw your lines in a more flowing fashion and work more from the elbow. As well as this, you also want to focus on line weight. This is kind of hard to learn, so I don't expect you to pick it up straight away. But as you improve your line art, try making certain lines a little thicker than others by putting more pressure on the pen. Make lines where the shadows are a little bit darker. By adding line weights, it can help the appearance of the line work to look more professional. Regardless of the skills of your art, as long as you have cleaner line work, it can make it look a lot better. My sixth tip is work on contrast in your shading. Contrast in your shading is one of the main things that will help your book to stand out a lot more in the arts department. Now, if your manga is colored, the tips in this part may not apply to you as much. When contrasting your shading, put a focus on having solid black areas, solid white areas, and grey areas for extra shading. If you put too much of a focus on only one or two of these, your manga pages might not stand out as much. There needs to be a balance between all three. For solid black areas, you can shade items in the scene that is solid black, use it for shadowed areas, people's hair, and so on. For the grey areas, this is for extra shading. It helps to balance things out. There can be different levels of grey too, darker greys and lighter greys. You can use screen tones for this method or simply a grey pen or pencil. The white is everything else, but it should be balanced with the amount of black and grey you have. This type of balance will help a lot with the contrast and help your manga pages stand out a lot more. My seventh tip is learn about gestures and expressions. One very important aspect to keep in mind with the art in your manga is that the artwork is not only important just for looking pretty, art is there to help tell a story in the character's expressions, gestures, and body language. So even if your artwork may not be very high quality yet, focusing on the character's gestures, expressions, and body language can actually tell a story within itself. So if your art is not at that high of a level yet, simply focusing on how your characters are saying things, simply in the way they are acting, will be able to step up your artwork a lot to make your manga pages look better. You have to remember in a manga that not everything needs to be said. Sometimes words can be said in an awkward glance, an embarrassed look away, frowning and crossing arms, even if the words are not spoken aloud. I recommend looking online at body language, gestures, and expressions and see real people examples of these so you can practice drawing them in your own style and really get an idea of how each of these expressions, gestures, and body language looks. Once you do this, it can add more dimensions to your art and help make your manga pages look more entertaining and enticing. My eighth tip is practice rule of thirds. A great way to make artwork look better is to learn about the rule of thirds, which is a method that can really help with composition and learning where to place aspects on your manga pages. You can do this method by drawing a 3x3 grid over your drawing. The most important aspects of your art should follow the lines or the joints of the lines. It can make your artwork look a lot more structured and interesting. If you are struggling to know where to put things in your panels, this method may help you. Simply draw a 3x3 grid lightly over your page or panel and put the most important aspects of the page over the lines. You might have a character on the line, an item, or the lines of a building. You can practice with this method until you are able to know where to put items in a scene without the grid. My ninth tip is focus on what makes your manga special. Your art might not be perfect yet, and that's okay. It's okay if you're not the best artist yet. Everyone has to start from somewhere. But instead of the art, I want you to focus on what does make your manga special. What makes your manga stand out from other manga out there? Perhaps you put a focus on comedy, or you create really great characters, interesting and unique locations, or have a special writing style. Your manga is special because it's yours. That's the main thing that I really want you to think about. And so the best way to gain readers for your manga and to gain popularity for the story you're telling is to focus on what does make it unique to you. And that will bring readers and an audience towards the story you are telling. So thank you so much for watching my video today, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know what kind of manga you're creating because I would really love to hear about it. Feel free to chat with me on any of my social media at @midicecross or in the comment section down below because I always enjoy hearing from you. Again, thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next video.